Hey fam, I'm so excited to be with you tonight. Man, we had another great Bible study and our series on dating continued. We're on part 5 now, and we transitioned from talking about the character of a man. Really, we're talking about the characteristics of men and women that ideally you want to look for when dating. And really, you don't want to find these things out while you are dating. And we use Joseph as an example. Yes, he was married to Mary. He was the stepfather of Jesus. But the things that he exemplified, we talked about last week. And just to keep it short, he was compassionate. He was loving. But most importantly, he was submissive to God's will. And he wanted to obey the law. And he wanted to be obedient to the Lord. And so that's something you should look for in a man. Well, this week we're going to look at the character of a woman. What a man should be looking for, and a role model for women to be. And I'm going to give you some of those traits. And we're going to look at Ruth. The Book of Ruth is in the Old Testament. Not a lot of people pay attention to Ruth, but she's a very significant person. But to keep the story real short, Ruth was the daughter-in-law of Naomi and Elimelech. All right, so Naomi and Elimelech were husband and wife. They had 2 sons. All right, so they were from Bethlehem in Judah, the kingdom of Judah, overall Israel, but the kingdom of Judah. And there was a famine there, a great famine there, and they left Israel and went to Moab, where there was basically plenty, no famine there. And their sons wound up marrying 2 Moabite women by the names of Orpah and Ruth. All right. And that was frowned upon as far as Jewish culture is concerned for many reasons. I don't want to get too deep in Old Testament history. But anyway, unfortunate events happened. All right. So Elimelech died and the 2 sons also died. So that just left Naomi and Orpah and Ruth together as a family. And if you know anything about the history of that time or the culture of that time, being a widow, just a tough life, because basically they needed the community to support them. And basically all Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah, all they had was each other. Now Naomi wanted to go back to Bethlehem, and she's going back. She said, I'm going back to Bethlehem. Ruth and Orpah, you stay here. I love you, but you stay here. You're Moab women. This is your native land. Your gods are here. Who you serve is here. You stay here. You still have an opportunity to make a life for yourself. And basically, they both wept. The daughter-in-laws wept. They didn't want Naomi to leave, or they wanted to go with her, actually. But Naomi was adamant in her request. And Orpah wound up staying. But Ruth refused. Ruth refused to accept Naomi's will, and made a commitment to take care of her mother-in-law until she died. In fact, she said, I will serve your God. I will leave my land and I will be with you. I will take care of you till you die. And so Naomi, not fighting anymore, just, okay, let's go. So they go back to Bethlehem and make a life for themselves. And once again, they're poor. They're having to go into the fields and gather the remains of the harvest that's left over, what people don't pick up or people miss. And in one of the fields, it was the field that was owned by Boaz. So that may be a name that sounds familiar, but Boaz, and basically Ruth's name, and because of what she was doing, because she was a Moabite woman and willing to sacrifice and turn basically away from Moab just to be with, and her loyalties with Naomi, she made a name for herself. All right, so Boaz, it caught Boaz's eye. And he says here, he says in chapter 3, verse 11, he says, all of my fellow townsmen know you are a worthy woman, a worthy woman. And so let's talk about the traits of Ruth. Basically, number 1, She was loyal. And as men, what do we want in our women? What do we want in our wives? We want them to be loyal. We want to know that they're going to be with us until the end. All right, no matter the circumstances, no matter what we go through, the ups and downs, and that's why the vow, sickness and in health, richer or poor. We want to know that our woman is going to be there with us through thick and through thin until we die. And Ruth exemplified that trait, that characteristic. All right. Also, a theme here too is persevering in faith during difficult times. And you have to remember Ruth is a widow. Naomi is struggling. They're struggling to take care of each other, and they're persevering in faith during their difficult times to make it through. Next, I will save the ending for next week in part 6. But just want to talk about loyalty and a sacrificial love that Ruth has. A sacrificial love that Ruth had for Naomi. So those are definitely traits. Another trait, a woman who trusts and is committed and commits herself to God. All right. So remember this, Ruth gave up her country of Moab and said, I will serve Yahweh. I will serve the Most High God. I will serve your God, Naomi. That's who I'm attesting my faith to, and he will get us through this. So if anything, as men, we want a woman who's loyal and also a woman who's willing to go through the tough times. And men, you have to remember this, you have to be a leader and exemplify traits of a godly man to help that woman to continue to be loyal, to persevere with you. So there's responsibility on both parts, and to have that sacrificial love. All right, so when we come back next week, we're going to get into more details about the Boaz part of this, because there are some things that Ruth did to even make herself attractive, even more attractive to Boaz. All right, so I pray that you've been blessed. Yes, please continue to go to my YouTube channel and look at our previous videos preceding this video here. And thank you. I pray that you've been blessed and have a great